All right, it's 12 noon, and I'd like to say welcome to Leading the Conversation, NAMI Northern Illinois' weekly podcast featuring some of our leading experts in the field of mental health. My name's Warren Boykin, and I am the Program and Outreach Coordinator for NAMI Northern Illinois. And with her camera turned off, you see Danielle Angelari. I was just going to send her a note that she should turn on the camera so people can see her smiling face. Um, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest for this afternoon. Tavares Moore is a licensed clinical social worker. He works full-time with the Department of Veterans Affairs and has been tenured there for the last 10 years. Along with this, he started part-time private practice with Resilience Counseling of Rockford about a year ago. Tavares is a current board member with NAMI Northern Illinois. His connection with NAMI goes back to his days working for Janet Waddell Center, now the Rosecrance Ware Center, for 12 years in the early 2000s. In this field, as well as any field, maintaining a healthy work-life balance can be critical, yet is often overlooked or misunderstood. Tavares will spend some time examining this dynamic to see how and why this is often overlooked and or misunderstood, and discuss how we as individuals and members of our respective communities can mindfully bring this back into balance and better align our sense of purpose in life with what we do and how we spend our time. And now present you Tavares Moore.
Well, thank you, Warren. I appreciate the introduction. Before I get started, I just want to say I could listen to your voice all day. You have a very calm radio type of voice that just, I'm leaned in and I'm very just relaxed hearing your voice. So
Yeah, I put people to sleep very easily. Thank you, Tavares.
that's a good thing. Yeah. So thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Warren. Thank you to NAMI Northern Illinois for giving me this opportunity to speak on something that I really enjoy talking about. It's work-life balance, purpose, and how we can better align these things and have balance in our life. Because I would assume that anybody and everybody that's on the call today's training, would like more information about how to better balance their life and how to, just find ways to enjoy what we're doing and where we're spending our time at. So for the next hour or so, I'd like to just share my passion, my experiences, my ideas regarding this concept of work-life balance. Now, I'm also going to talk about how we can just manage this balance mindfully by aligning our purpose, something I like to think about who we are with our vocation, something I like to think of as what we do, and or the roles that we assume in life. When I first designed this, I created it I gave the presentation to a group of social workers. And I know in our field, it's very, very important, but like any field, work-life balance is important. But for those who, also are looking to balance, not just work life, but like the roles that you play. So part of the conversation, I'll talk about the different roles that we assume that kind of drain us at times and that take a lot of our energy and just time commitment as well. I felt that it was really super important because some of us are working jobs, not really careers. Some of us are, retired or semi-retired, and some of us just are at that point in life to where, we're struggling to find that sense of meaning and purpose. So we don't have everything figured out. So the presentation, hopefully it will find you right where you are and it will land accordingly to where you are in life and give you some tips, tools, and tricks to kind of help balance and align the things that you find, meaningful for you. I had a client recently in my private practice. It was either the first or second session, and he, towards the end, asked me who I was seeing for therapy. And it kind of, it caught me off guard a little bit. And so once I kind of got through the little judgments in my mind I said, I answered just nobody at the moment. Why do you ask? And he kind of mentioned that, just kind of hearing people's problems and, traumas and just the toll of everything that you're hearing every day, surely, it impacts you. And I thought like, compassion fatigue. But then, I just, without getting into too much detail with them, I kind of mentioned like work-life balance, self-care, all that type of stuff. And so it's really important how we prioritize self-care, um, how we're mindfully paying attention to this balance. But how do we actually really prioritize it? Like, is it just this concept floating around? Do you know, like, I just need to take some time off work. I need to get more sleep. I need to get to work right on time, leave right on time. Are you really prioritizing the work-life balance, or you just kind of passively talk about it or think about it? So I know a few years back, this was 2020, right around the time COVID was really just kind of making its impact on society. I kind of set some goals and I wrote them down. I categorized them in about 6 or 7 different categories. And those goals kind of set me on the path that I find myself on today, with many of the goals fulfilled. And so the goal sheet really helped me to focus my thoughts, my emotions, my behaviors in the direction where I wanted to be in life. I wanted to just throw that out there before I get too deep, because I'm going to come back and reference that at different points of the presentation. So at this point, you're probably wondering like who I am, what qualifies me to talk about work-life balance. You're probably assuming that I have my life in good balance already, but the short answer to that is no. Again, like I kind of mentioned, I have experiences, I have passion, and I have a good concept of it, and I'm very mindful and intentional about the processes in life. So just keep that in mind, that we're all going to be off balance at different points in our life, maybe day to day, week to week, month to month, but it's important to just, be mindful of that and then kind of get yourself back to balance. And I'm going to talk about all this in the upcoming hour. So that leads to the next question. How do we know when we're actually off balance or not? What's that feel like for you? Is it stress? Is it irritability? Do you feel like you're just always too busy? When things come up, you always have to say no because you're busy, things like that. Do you not get enough sleep? Low energy, fatigue? How do you know, when your life is kind of like off balance or kind of off kilter? Is there an empty feeling? Are you experiencing like poor health? Do you uh, resort to like retail therapy or poor spending habits, stuff like that? So just things to consider to kind of gauge when your life's off balance, because there's no real scale for life, right? Unless you've created that scale. Maybe you've been on Shark Tank recently, or you've got this idea of like, how do I actually measure, the balance of my life? Am I working too much? Am I, maybe this sounds weird, but like enjoying life too much and not working enough? That sounds really bad, right? Not working enough. But you get the concept. Like, how do you know when you're off balance? Um, Alignment, however, is a little bit more subtle and maybe more difficult to notice, and we'll get into that. Lastly, in the title, purpose and vocation, where does that factor in? And so, what do they have to do with each other? That phrase we're all kind of familiar with: find something you love to do, and you'll never work a day in your life. There's some truth to that, right? But it's not totally accurate, because I'm speaking to the people who trade time for money, and that's most of us probably on the call. Some of us have found ways to like leverage our time and make like passive income and stuff like that. But for the most part, I'd assume or imagine that most people that need more balance are like us who trade time for money. And so regardless if you love your job, you're obligated to dedicate a certain amount of hours to get, the tangible, the money that we all need for resources and stuff like that. So there was a quote that I read recently. I can't even remember where I found this from. Maybe it was you that said this, and I owe you the credit. So If so, let me know and I'll put you on the reference page. But it goes like this. Don't ever attach yourself to a person, place, a company, organization, or a project. Instead, attach yourself to a mission, a calling, a purpose only. That's how you keep your power and your peace. And that just kind of resonated with me, and it fit very perfect for what we're going to be talking about today. Um, and not to say that organizations, people, things like that are bad, but when you attach yourself more to a purpose or a mission or a standard, it really doesn't matter what industry you're in, what job you're doing. You're going to do it with a sense of purpose and dedication and integrity that transcends the position or the company or whatever you're doing. When I talk to the group of social workers, there's so many different things that we can get into in social work. And we've got that sense of pride about what we do, whether we're working with adults, kids, organizations, policy, and stuff like that. I see a hand raised.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry, Tavares, I just wanted to mention something that I forgot to mention in our introduction. That is that we do have the chat and the Q&A feature. If our participants have any questions, if you would type them into the Q&A, I'll let Tavares know. And secondly, Tavares, if you could, indicate if we're on, can you see the slides that we're looking at?
Yeah.
We're on the introduction slide. Is that the right place for us to be?
Yes, it is. Perfect.
Okay, great. And I think that's all I need to say right now. I appreciate you. Thank you. Please
Yeah,
continue.
definitely. Yeah, and as you all have thoughts or ideas or questions or anything, just chat them in and keep me posted and let me know. I can definitely, respond to the chats in real time
Okay.
and not lose my focus.
All right.
And so it's going to seem like I'm all over the place, but there's a lot of things to talk about. And I'll try to cover a lot of the material so that we do have some time to talk throughout. And then any questions at the end, I don't want to rush through it because there's a lot to consume and digest here today. That kind of brings me to this short little video clip. So that's a long introduction. I wanted to insert a quick little video and then I'll get into myself a little bit. But if we can cue up the video.
It'll just take a second.
Years, and roughly around here, we start to work. And we work. We keep working all the way until we're 65 years old. So as you can see, that is most of your life. So it is very important to spend this time doing something that you love. Being a kid is nice. Retiring is nice. But what about the years in between? These should not be just a write-off and just waiting for Friday. Just get through it. You can't wait till retirement, because once those years are gone, they're gone. What I'm saying is, if you're working at a job that you hate just for a paycheck, then you need to make a change in your life.
Very short but powerful video. I know that we all have this concept in our head about, when we start to work and like how long we'll work, right? And then we all kind of have this fantasy idea about retirement and like, I can't wait till retirement, but the reality is, I hate to say it like so negative or grim, but like a lot of times, with America, the retirement age is what now? 62 early, 65. You get a little bit more money. I don't know if they're extending that to 72 or, by the time I'm ready for retirement, it might be pushed back to 88, something like that. And then it's just like all medical appointments and wheelchair bound. And, eating Jello at a nursing home or something like that, right? And so that's a good visualization of the length of time that we work. Why not spend that time, really being mindful of doing something that we enjoy doing? And we're not just waiting for Friday or waiting for retirement. It's a funny thing, when I found myself probably like within the last year or two coming to work and, was kind of talking to people about, today's Tuesday, right? Yeah, it's Tuesday. We all kind of anxiously waiting for Friday, or like Thursday is like Friday Eve, or hey, how you doing? Oh, it's Friday, the weekend. I started intentionally saying like, I know it sucks, right? Can't wait till Monday. Just kind of like sarcastically, but like I'm being mindful of like how we're talking, because even though it's like, it's just kind of like office banter, right? But you have to be mindful of like what you're saying to yourself, even though it might be jokingly. If we're always kind of in that mindset of we can't wait till Friday, and maybe it's just because we know that the Friday gives us that opportunity to balance off the work and the life part, right? But why can't we make Mondays feel like Thursdays? Why can't Tuesday feel like Friday? You know, Granted, we have more time to do the things that we really enjoy outside of work on the weekends, but how can we find more meaning and purpose Monday through Friday in the stuff that we're doing? And so today I want to kind of dive into that process, mindfully discuss who we are, what we do, and how we blend these for efficient balance and alignment. But first, I need to introduce myself and kind of talk about who I am and what I do. So we could go to the next slide. So my name is Tavares Moore. I am a licensed social worker. That's the title. It's a credential that I've earned. It doesn't define me, but it's a title, right? It's a vocational kind of mark that kind of tells you what I do or what I'm qualified to do. What else? What I do, I work at the Department of Veterans Affairs full time. As Warren said in the introduction, I've been here for 10 years. Depending on the conversations that I'm having out in the community and stuff like that, sometimes people ask what I do, I'll lead with, oh, I work for the VA. If I'm talking with a veteran. Other times, depending on who I'm talking to, I say, oh, I'm a social worker. But I do have a lot of pride when I talk about that. If you don't feel that sense of pride or like meaning when you're talking about what you do or where you work, that might be an indicator that maybe there might be a little bit misalignment or balance, or maybe you're just not where you really want to be. But the work that I do at the VA is very meaningful to me. I think most people's grandfather served. I have family members that served. I did an intern with the VA. That's what really drew me to the VA, is the intern. It was a stipend position. So I got paid for the internship. But that wasn't the main thing. Always within social work, it's very honorable in our society to work with veterans. And so my role at the VA is helping post 9/11 veterans transition to civilian life. That encompasses a lot of, shifting of your thoughts in terms of like the military to civilian culture, coaching them into care. It's okay to ask for help now. We kind of walk them through the process, help them to understand their benefits and get the benefits that they've earned. And then just the process of transitioning. A lot of times people think like social work veterans, it's probably mostly mental health. It's about a lot more than mental health. It's dealing with change in careers, family situation. It's two totally different cultures. And so the biggest thing that I've seen, it isn't necessarily always mental health or pain. It's finding a sense of meaning and purpose after you've already created that huge sense of purpose in life. There was one vet described it to me like his purpose was handed to him in service. As a civilian, you have to go find it. So for most of us on the call that work careers or a job, imagine if, today your industry told you that you can no longer do this. Here's some money towards education, go find another career. We'll fund it, but you have to go do it. That would be traumatic for me in my 40s, just to stop doing social work and find something else to do, because I've attached a lot of purpose and meaning in the social work. Honestly, I don't know what I would do. So that's what I do full time at the VA. NAMI, that's also something that I do. When this opportunity was presented to me, a mentor of mine was resigning her board seat several years back and had asked if I had any interest on being a board member with NAMI. And at first, I'm kind of thinking, my life is fairly well balanced. I've got young kids, they're into sports, I like to work out. I've got my eggs in different baskets and I don't want to overload and put something else on my agenda. But going back to those goals that I created for myself a few years back, I thought about it and I'm looking at, one of the goals was, it was under the category of social, and it was expand beyond my household, serve, and then make my humble presence felt. And so I'm just kind of sharing personal aspects of myself. And so the opportunity aligned with my personal goals. And so I knew that it was going to create a little bit of imbalance, but it was in line with who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I knew that I could always kind of shift the balance or make ways, to get other things accomplished. But this was in line with what I wanted to do and the example that I wanted to be serving and doing something for my community. And it was in line with my skill set as well. So lining the opportunity up with my goals is almost kind of like a no-brainer. I still had to weigh it, to make sure that it wasn't too much of an imbalance. But that's why it's like the importance of setting goals and making sure that your behaviors are in line with your values is very important. And it's led to a lot of fulfilling things for me. Again, that's something that I do. Resilience counseling, that's another thing that I do. Now you're starting to see why my life might be a little bit imbalanced right now. And so an old friend of mine, her name is Renetta, and we worked together our first job out of undergrad at a nursing home. Some of you guys might be familiar with it. It was, Fairview Nursing Home. I think it's a different name now, but it's on Arnold Avenue. Anyway, we would run into each other over the years and just kind of talk and stuff like that and catch up. But she saw me and she's like, "Hey, Tavares, I forgot you were a social worker. You should come and work with me in this private practice that she had." And I'm like, I really like what I do at the VA, and that would really create an imbalance. Those weren't my words. That's what I'm thinking, right? And she's like, "Tavares, it's very lucrative, and there's such a strong need for a Black male therapist in Rockford. There's just a lot of people that just really need or want that type of therapist, that rapport." And so I kind of mulled over it for about a year. I dragged my feet. And finally, I kind of thought about it again, back to my goals. It lined up with my goals. There's a lot of unmet desires and stuff that I have in life that this is like extra money for me, but it's also another calling to serve my community. There's a need there, and I have the skill set to fulfill it. Again, it's going to create a little bit more imbalance in my life, but it's in line with what I want to do and who I want to be, and using my skill set to its potential, if that makes sense. And so here I am, working part-time for a counseling opportunity, but it's very rewarding. It's very fulfilling. You just have to make those, I'm making those adjustments. Now, those are all things what I do. I think the biggest part of finding purpose and meaning is knowing who you are. And so I put in this slide, who am I? Who I am. I'm a child of God. I'm very faithful. I'm very spiritual. And I think just having that as a foundation for me, that kind of helps guide what I do. And it helps to guide my behaviors and make sure that my values are in line with who I am. And so I just thought it was interesting as we talk today, kind of being mindful of who you are and what you do. There's some overlap there, but they're also two different things, because sometimes you want to be mindful of not attaching your value in what you do, like all your value in what you do. That's the issue that I see a lot in therapy sessions, especially with veterans who have put all of their identity in the military. And when they get out, or if it's an untimely discharge for medical reasons or whatever, they tend to really struggle because their whole sense of purpose was placed in what they did. Now, the military is something different than civilian employment because that is your life. You're always on, and that is a large part of your identity. But eventually, you're going to get out of that sector, and it's easier to transition when you don't put all of your identity in what you do. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go. All right, next slide. All right, so before we go, I just want to mention some objectives that I'm hoping to achieve as we talk today. There's just 4 core objectives that I'm hoping we can, target, and that you can kind of walk away from this with some meaningful stuff that you can apply. And so 1, mindfully connect with your purpose and who you are. 2, distinguish yourself from your vocation and or roles that you take on. Because even though we assume roles in life, we're not just those roles. I know sometimes our kids see us as only a parent. That's all you are. My kids, I don't think they really value what I do. They just know who I am in the house. And so I'm sure that, in different roles that we all assume, there's a lot of weight attached to that. But we're more than just what we do or who we are to certain people. Understand the synthesis between who you are and what you do. So although I'm talking about separating the two, there's also a synthesis there, and the better that we can align that, the more, we can easily, find that balance and make sure that we're in line with our values and what we're doing. And then lastly, learn to incorporate personal values in what you do. Makes it more meaningful, makes it more fun. Remember that time span. We're basically working from 16 to about 62, unless you did 20 years in service and you started at 18 and now you're retired at 38, like my brother, but we're working up into our later years. And it's important that, as you're moving about life, that you are incorporating your values in everything that you do. So those are the objectives. Next slide. I'm going to talk a little bit about keywords and concepts, and then we'll kind of get into the nuts and bolts. Obviously, purpose is a huge key word here. I'm going to define what purpose is from several different sources and just kind of play with that a little bit. Personal values. This is an interesting one because it's not included in the title, but I think just by connecting with your personal values, you can start to see if your behaviors and your actions in life are really adding up to what your purpose is, or how you see yourself, or or even like I feel this discontent between what I'm doing in life. It's not really, just something's off. And so we're going to get into like what your values are, where they develop from, and how they're kind of constantly changing and stuff as well. And that'll kind of help to shape your sense of purpose in life. Vocation, job, career. I think it's important to define those because they're slightly different, but it's something that we spend the bulk of our living years doing. So it's important to understand, the difference between a vocation, job, and career. Roles is kind of self-explanatory, but we'll spend some time breaking down roles and how they can add meaning, but also drain us in life as well, and how we can balance our roles so that, we have this, sense of, just fulfillment in life, and not that it's just, I am who you say I am, but I am who I am. Or I am who God says I am. Mindfulness. That's something that permeates everything. Just intentionally being mindful about what you're thinking, what you're doing in the moment, not worried about the future or overly concerned or, being grappled and pulled back to the past. Synthesis is just a cool word. I thought I just got to throw that in there. I'm just kidding. Synthesis, we'll get into the definition, but synthesis, I have a whole slide on synthesis. Work-life balance, obviously there, balance, alignment, and then who are you? It's a good, kind of like, it's a basic question, but it's also a very deep existential question as well. I think the more that we can understand who we are, the better sense of purpose that we can kind of have for ourselves. So who are you? Next slide. When I ask, who are you? How do you actually respond to that? Like, what would be your first response? Who are you? And then obviously most people just say their name, right? And then I say, no, but who are you? And then you start thinking about what you do, what your roles are, things of that nature. So I want to start with purpose. The reason for which, and there's just a couple of different definitions to kind of give us a good starting point. Purpose, the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. I gave an example here. An airplane is used for a specific purpose, right? It's not just a luxury, toy for the rich and famous, but it's made to transport people or things via air. A car is used to transport people and or things via land. Just two really simple examples, but purpose, the next one is purpose is the cumulative effect of meaningful goals. Further, purpose is less tangible. We define purpose as a long-term aim or guiding principle based on meaning, its impact we want to have on the world. Purpose is the impact that we want to have. And so example here, a lifetime of various pursuits, hobbies, habits, interests, principles, etc., that add up to form a unique story. So sometimes when I talk to people about purpose, I surprised some veterans, a group that I did recently, just asking them about what their purpose was. And a couple of the folks couldn't really define it because it's just kind of like this, it's a big concept. Like, I don't really know what my purpose is. Sometimes younger adults or kids, they don't know their purpose because they don't have that lifetime of interests or hobbies or passions, pursuits and stuff. So as you're living life, one way to look at it is a collection of chapters of your life adding up to form your purpose. So I guess what I'm saying is you don't need to have a specific purpose, from I don't hear God telling me what my purpose is. A lot of us don't hear God telling us what our purpose is, but you can start to form your purpose over a collection of things that you've achieved or done in life. Another definition here, your life purpose consists of the central motivating aims of your life, the reasons you get up in the morning. Purpose can guide life decisions, influence behavior, shape your goals, offer a sense of direction, and create meaning. For some people, the purpose is connected to vocation, kind of like I was saying before, meaningful, satisfying work, right? And even though you do have meaning, satisfying work, what if that's all your life consists of? That sounds like off balance. Even though it's meaningful, there's other parts of your life that are a little bit off balance, and there might be people or aspects of your life that be further developed in conjunction with the meaningful, satisfying work. So why is purpose so important in life? Have you ever really thought to ask yourself that or pondered that question? In fact, the meaningful intention can help you stay focused on things that matter most to you, like family, friends, faith, career, and more. It helps you prioritize your life, allowing you to walk away from certain people or activities that don't serve your purpose, right? Sometimes in society, we're easily swayed by things. Just think about, I get distracted a lot in life. I go to check an email and I get distracted by one email. I'm just going there to delete a few emails before it keeps accumulating and I get sucked into one. Or you're just kind of scrolling through, social media and you get sucked into a reel or 5 or 12. And before you know it, you never really went and responded to the friend request or said happy birthday to the person because you got distracted, right? So I think sometimes purpose is just going to help guide your activities. My definition of purpose I include on here is just the synthesis of who you are and what you do, plain and simple. Next slide. All right, this is where we get into personal values. Personal values, what do we mean by values? This is small, so I'm gonna lean in. My vision isn't the greatest. Your values are the lenses through which you view yourself and your world. And notice it says your world, not the world. We all have different perceptions of reality as things are happening to us. As values develop, they are crystallized and prioritized to form a value system. In essence, they form your own personal truth from which self-esteem, fulfillment, and resilience develop. to further explain a person's principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. They internalize their parents' rules and values. So think about how your values were formed. A lot of time, just kind of growing up, we inherit our parents' values either, overtly or covertly, just through their actions and behaviors. Sometimes parents sit down and have a talk about what the values are. Be mindful though, because in adulthood, our values tend to get what's a good term? Subliminally given to us, whether that's advertising or just cultural trends, stuff like that. Drink this, right? Hey, if you wear this, this is what society values right now. And so you have to be mindful. Is that really your value? Or is that culture telling you what today's value is? Just have to be mindful and intentional about it. Let's click on that life values inventory there. And I'm just this is an exercise. We kind of have loosely kind of like thought values, in our head. This is a kind of a tool to help us explore and categorize our values. It's a life values inventory I thought was pretty neat. If you've never done this before, I encourage you to try to do this. So it's a Likert scale here. On the following pages is a list of beliefs that guides your people's behavior, that guides people's behavior and helps them to make important decisions. Read each one and then choose the response 1 through 5 that best describes how often the belief guides your behavior. So 1 is almost never guides my behavior. 3 is sometimes guides my behavior. And then 5 is almost always guides my behavior. And then the 2 and the 4 are kind of like midpoints, okay? And if you just kind of scroll down a little bit, you can kind of see the questions. I think there's 42 or 49 questions that they ask. And it's, at the end of this, it kind of puts the values into different categories. If you can scroll down a little bit further just towards the end so we can see the categories. This is a really neat tool just to kind of see not necessarily, it will tell you kind of like the highest value, but the lowest value. It's not really saying this is what you devalue. It just kind of ranks what your values are. And so achievement, belonging, creativity, financial prosperity, health and activity, humility, spirituality. And so once you do stuff like this, you can kind of see where your values lie, and then it'll give you a sense of, I scored high in this value, but my behaviors and actions in life don't really spend too much time in that category, right? And so these type of activities can just kind of help to bring into your conscious awareness where your values lie, or where you want to be. This is how I tend to react in situations or so. Okay, any questions on that? And there's different type of values inventories. This is just one for illustrative purposes. There was another article that I did attach to the reference sheet. This is an article that I found on, I think it's Gold Coast. What are values? How to discover yours and build a life of purpose. I would advise you, if once we're done and you want a copy of this or just kind of reference sheet, this is a really good article. And they pose some really interesting questions. So apart from the values inventory, there's some questions that you can ask yourself to kind of ponder. And then under each section, it just kind of talks about stuff that you can kind of reflect on. So as you reflect and answer each of these questions, kind of explore the underlying values that are meaningful for you. Next slide, and then we'll kind of get into some of the questions here. So personal values, relationships. What sort of relationships do you want to build? How do you want to behave in these relationships? What personal qualities do you want to develop? There's a part of my life where I was going to this one particular church, and I just kind of felt like that's where I was on my journey. And I wasn't mindful of that. And I felt like conflicted because I felt that I had to behave and act in certain ways around my church friends, right? And, one of my goals in life, values, like I wish, I want to work on swearing less. right? That just, it's not really in line with, like, I guess, good, God Christian behavior and stuff. And also it's a good example for my kids and coworkers and stuff like that. Every now and then it just feels good to use a cuss word or to make your point, right? But for me, I just like, I want to swear a little bit less, right? I also kind of felt like there was a part in my life where, like, every time I would grill, I would have a drink. It was just something. Maybe I inherited that value through culture or TV, right? Grilling and having a Jack Daniels or something like that. Like, you know what? I value health and activity, and like, I was gonna work out or go running later, but I've already had a couple of drinks and I don't feel good having a buzz and then going and doing something physical, and stuff like that. And so these questions really kind of help you to see if your behaviors are really in line with your values. How would you treat others if you were the ideal you in these relationships? What sort of ongoing activities do you want with these people? So just relationship questions to ponder. And when you're thinking about personal values, work, education, what personal qualities would you like to bring to the workplace that maybe you're not doing right now? What sort of relationship do you want to build in the workplace? What skills, knowledge, and personal qualities do you wish to develop? Let's go to the next slide. Personal growth and health. What ongoing activities would you like to start or take up again? What groups or centers would you like to join? What lifestyle changes would you like to make? I've had a lot of different lifestyle changes, just as I age and stuff like that. And am I actually pursuing those, or I'm actually just kind of like passively taking part? Leisure, what sports, hobbies, activities, and stuff on an ongoing basis. How do you want to relax, unwind, or have fun in healthy, life enhancing ways? So just a lot of different questions to ponder that can help add to your, alignment of values and behaviors. How to live a life aligned with your values. Here's an interesting quote. Values are directions we keep moving in, whereas goals are what we want to achieve along the way. A value is like heading north. A goal is like a river, mountain, or valley we aim across while traveling in that direction. And it says, this is a great image of the difference between values and goals. The best way to align with your values is to use them as a North Star. And so I think it was important to really kind of talk about values and being mindful of, are we living our values? Are we just kind of like drifting and accepting or, adopting the values of culture or other people? And I think the better that we can align with our values, the more sense of purpose that I think we can kind of start to form and feel good about. Next slide. All right, so job, career, vocation. This will be a quick slide, but again, just to help people who are kind of struggling with having a job that's not really meaningful, right? A job, just keep in mind, it's a paid position of regular employment. Sometimes along our journey, we might just find ourselves in a job. We have to make ends meet on our way to our vocation, or maybe the jobs that you're having over the course of time are leading to a career for you. And sometimes it's, that's just the cards that were dealt at the time. We just have to get through it. A career is a profession, a professional occupation that you pursue for a significant period of your life, which often requires special training. Further, it says career actually has two definitions. The word career is often used to refer to a profession, occupation, trade, or vocation. I'll kind of skip some of that. You guys can read later, because I think I'm running a little bit short on time. Career has another definition as well, though. It also refers to the progress and actions you have taken throughout the working years of your life. Let's see, when viewed on this context, a career includes everything related to your career development, including your choice of profession and advancement. Your single career could include a variety of different paths. So as I'm talking with veterans as they're transitioning out of service, I talk to them about their military career. And that could be 2 years, 4 years, or 20 years. It's a career because it encompasses everything that they've done in that given amount of time. Just keep that in mind. Whereas vocation can refer to a particular occupation that leverages a person's skills toward a wider purpose. This type of vocation isn't limited to a single job. There are many ways to answer a calling. For example, if your vocation is storytelling, you can do anything from filmmaking to content marketing. And there's such a big opportunity for that in today's social media age. But just keep that in mind. Vocation is this, it's more than just where you're at. It's what all you can do to leverage your skills. I think that was important to kind of note that. Okay, let's do the next slide. 445. This is a really nice slide. I really like to talk about roles here. Roles can be very fulfilling. They can also be very stressful. They can provide a grounding and a strong sense of belonging and refreshing energy. They can recharge your battery, but they can also drain it when you're off balance. So different roles: parent, sibling, half sibling, step sibling, husband, wife, coworker, manager, child, student, group member. For me personally, I'm a dad and a stepdad. There's slightly different roles kind of given both of those hats that I wear. I'm a child, I'm a brother, I'm a manager, coworker, board member, friend, life group leader, hot yoga instructor. I didn't put that in there. I'm not a hot yoga instructor. That's for laughs. Landlord, speedo model. I'm not a speedo model. I just, again, thought that was laugh. One of my coworkers here kind of teases me about that. And I'm not the type to ever wear a speedo. I'm kind of self-conscious about that. But in other countries, that's the thing. But just different roles that you play can really have an impact on your sense of purpose and how you view yourself. And so think about cultural and activity groups also add to your role, right? So for me personally, here's roles can also add a lot of enrichment and fulfillment in your life. And this kind of helps with the work-life balance, what you do with your time when you're not in those working hours. So for me, I grew up in the hip hop era. And so hip hop is an important part of me just because the process, my age was, hip hop turned 50 this year. And so just seeing the transition and the evolution of hip hop means a lot to me. And we know music is powerful. It's very emotional. It connects, to a certain part of our soul and in our emotions and stuff like that. And so, and I'm going to get into this when I talk about synthesis as well, but this is what makes it so unique. And so I'm into Black culture. I'm into social justice. I'm into sports cars, social work, fitness, all these different things, racing, basketball, football, Christianity. A lot of these different roles that you assume in life have you acting different ways in the role. I don't act the same way to my kids as I do, with coworkers. But there was a certain part of my life like, I want more balance. I want to be more consistent in my character across all these roles. Because one day recently, my son was telling me that I had anger issues, right? Can you imagine? Everybody who knows me, like, I'm so laid back and calm. And when he said it, like, well, I could kind of see from his perspective because I yell at him over little things in the house, but like, that's the me that he sees. He doesn't see me in many other roles. And so that just made me think like, okay, well, that's something I really need to work on. I need to swear less and yell at him less. I could be more patient in my parental role. And so just to kind of think about how the roles kind of hug at you, in terms of like how you want to be. I want to be viewed differently in that role. And I have the ability to make a change there. Are you a passive member of an activity or cultural group, or are you more actively involved? Questions to consider: what roles give you the most satisfaction in life? Which roles give you the least satisfaction, but you still have to do them? Which roles challenge you the most? Which roles make you uncomfortable? Are you consistently the person whom you want to be in each of your roles? Is there a role that you find yourself in that you're fighting against? I kind of put this in here, Corvette mode. So I love sports cars, right? And the Corvette that I want has, a lot of sports cars have these different mode selections: track mode, economy mode, wet mode, sport mode. And I use that as example of different roles. So it's the same car, but it functions differently in different modes, kind of like the roles that we play. So if you put it in wet mode, it handles better in wet conditions. You put it in track mode, it handles like the suspension stiffens up, it revs higher, so it's more adaptable to aggressive driving, right? The roles that we play, I'm more focused, I'm more, logical at work, at home. I'm more relaxed, I'm informal, I'm more susceptible to emotions. And so I kind of use the car select, kind of analogy to us as humans, right? And so it's important to be mindful of what role we're in so we can manage our behaviors, but also make sure that your behaviors are in line with your values. And so that just requires mindfulness of what mode you're in, given the role that you're in or where you're at. Hopefully that makes sense. I use a lot of different analogies. I use sports analogies and car analogies just to kind of make sense for people. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more. Oh God, it's 12:50. Next slide. I'm loving this. I hope you guys are having fun and enjoying this as well. All right, mindfulness. Again, this kind of permeates everything. An operational working definition of mindfulness is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, to the unfolding of experience moment by moment. That definition alone is like a mic drop. There are no more definitions of mindfulness really need to be made because that encompasses it all. But just kind of break it down a little bit. Mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. And that's why I think, self-reflection about our values, the roles that we play, what we're doing with our time, how we're enjoying our time, even though we're at work for 8 to 10 hours a day. Why is mindfulness important? Mindfulness is a key skill in DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, that helps develop wise mind. Wise mind is the ability to make healthy decisions about your life based on both your rational thoughts and your emotions. I put see, touch, hear, smell, taste. There's a lot of different mindfulness exercises that we use to kind of help build the skill of mindfulness. I'll kind of explain a little bit in the next slide. So just exercises, we can look up different exercises of mindfulness, but a couple of different exercises to consider to help you improve mindfulness. Focus on a single object for 5 minutes, observing its features mindfully. Breathing on a square, that's paying attention to your breathing, the inhale, the hold, exhale, hold, and then repeat the cycle. It's like a square. Focus on a single minute, and then see if you can kind of gauge when a minute has gone by without actually looking at a clock, and then using your 5 senses to define what's around you. So if we were to just kind of stop and kind of look, see what's around us, pay attention to what we hear. What do you taste right now? What are you feeling? What's the temperature? Those are different ways that can help us be present without judging what we're experiencing. All right, next slide. Synthesis is the composition or combination of parts or elements so as to form a whole. The process of combining objects or ideas into a complex whole. Here's the definition I really like. The mixing of different ideas, influences, or things to make a whole that is different or new. So when you're thinking about all the different roles that you assume, your job, the different roles, all your passions, your interests, your hobbies, obligations, that's what makes you so unique. When I was talking about the roles that I have and my interests and stuff, that's what makes me unique in the roles that I have influence over. It's all the different things that make me into a whole that's unique of all the individual parts. So the act of combining different ideas or things to make a whole that is new and different from the items considered separately. So just keep that in mind as you're kind of, exploring your values and, reflecting on the roles that you play and where you can kind of fine tune your alignment and balance. Next slide. Oh, 7 minutes. Clock's ticking. All right, balance. Let's see here. Remember wise mind. It's the balance between rational mind and emotional mind. Balance, the equipoise between contrasting, opposing, or interacting elements. Remember at the beginning when I was like, how do you know when your life is off balance? What senses do you have? We're not cars, so we don't have that warning light that comes on per se. We have to pay attention mindfully to what our body is telling us, what other people are telling us. Hey, can you do this? Nope, too busy. We have to be aware of when we're off balance. So definition: stability produced by even distribution of weight on each side of a vertical axis That sounds real technical, right? You think about those scales. Stability provides us with predictability. Predictability gives us a sense of confidence and control that leads to peace of mind. And so I kind of use another car example here. My 500, my 500 horsepower Corvette that's not mine yet, has stability control so that I can reasonably expect to get to work without the car killing me. And so with stability control, where is I going with this exactly? It helps to balance the weight as you're going around corners in life. The weight gets distributed unevenly on one side of the car. Based on the speed and the uneven balance, it can cause harm if the car tips over or slides. Just like in life, if we're doing too much or doing too many things or overcommitted, right? And we don't have that predictability, we're off balance. And that could lead to crashing and burning or burnout or, heart attack or worse, stress, all that type of stuff, or, unbalanced relationships because we're, unfortunately just too much time at work or too much leisure. It's not good. And so we need that stability, that predictability to bring into harmony or proportion. Next slide, please. So that's more balance. Let's see. Is it okay to drive with tires off balance? Driving with unbalanced tires can be dangerous. That's just kind of talking about that. It can lead to significant wear and tear on the vehicle suspension. Likewise, in life, having a life constantly off balance is going to lead to wear and tear in different areas of our life. Is it okay to be off balance? Yes, because we have to go through those curves in life, right? We have to do things that are in line with our values, but we have to eventually bring that back into balance. Otherwise, it's going to create uneven wear in different aspects of our life. We just have to constantly regulate it. We have to be mindful of the imbalance and then regulate it to get back. To maintain balance means that nothing changes, right? If we're always in balance, that means we're kind of stagnant. It's very predictable, but that can be kind of boring, right? In life, if you're always comfortable, always unbalanced, maybe that's a good thing. But just it's up to you to decide, like, is that stagnation or am I just really steady in life? Maybe I'm not really living my potential or living or executing my values because I'm too safe, I'm stagnant, I'm comfortable. We need a little bit off balance to really push us in life and give us that sense of meaning and really strong purpose. Or maybe not. Maybe your life is right where it needs to be, always on balance. That's up to you to decide. Example, responsibilities, the things that can kind of sneak up on us and throw us off balance. Responsibilities in life shift, child activities, family obligations, workload, death, right? Extracurricular activities, health. I talked about, people retiring and then they've just got to deal with health, stuff like that. So those are different examples of stuff that kind of draw us off balance. Next slide. Oh God, where's the time going? Alignment is like the wheel, the steering wheel. If it's straight, the tire should align with it, right? Just like in life, if we're living our values, our behavior should reflect that. You notice when your car's offline, right? If you let go of the steering wheel and it starts to swerve, it's easy to see. In life, when our behaviors aren't in line with our values, it's harder to notice that. That's why I think the self-reflection, the mindfulness is really important. Let's go to the next slide. I want to make sure that I can finish this off. Oh, that was it. Let's go back one slide. I'm at the summary here. Good timing. All right, so definition, an arrangement in which two or more things are positioned in a straight line or parallel to each other. I was already kind of talking about that with the steering wheel and the tires, right? So again, the definition of alignment, the proper positioning or state of adjustment of parts in relation to each other. Let's see here. Tire balance occur. Okay, next slide here. I'll go ahead and get to the summary because there's a lot of questions to consider here. So in summary, if who you are and how you live your values align well with what you do consistently, the chances of you maintaining healthy balance and alignment in life will be greatly increased. Hopefully through the conversation today, that's becoming a little bit more apparent in your conscious mind. As we see, being mindful of our personal values helps to guide our behaviors, decisions, and choices in life. Be mindful of what or who influences your values. So that's a key as well. In life, balance will shift more than alignment, or maybe not. Maybe alignment is shifting more for you than balance based on the many roles that we play, transitions that occur, and experiences that we encounter. But being aligned well with your personal values will help you to navigate the shifting of your balance. I love cars because I like when the torque kicks the tail end of the car out. It's fun to counter steer and then get it back balanced. It's fun for me. As in life, it's nice to have like off balance and then get it back to balance, because to me, that's really extracting the potential out of the car and my life. And so to me, that's really giving me a fulfilling life. And I just made that example up, but hopefully that makes sense to you all. We attach a strong sense of meaning and purpose to our careers. After all, a period of meaningful work adds to self-esteem, sense of accomplishment and competency, a sense of belonging, etc. However, we can be and are more than what we do in life. When or if a career, job, or vocation has ended, we can still connect having a sense of purpose, but this will be more difficult if you've heavily attached all your purpose to a specific career field. So ask yourself, who are you outside of your career field? What mission or higher calling do you have? Next slide. Oh, yeah, there's more. Are you living for Fridays or desperately running down the perpetual hallway toward retirement? If so, think of what you are mindfully missing in between. Here's one thing that's really profound that I thought of when I was writing this summary. Mindfully think of the thoughts that add value to your life. Don't allow your thoughts to think for you. Sometimes we get thoughts that are just random, but you have a choice in what you choose to think about. That will add value and keep you on track with your values. Alignment and balance are ever shifting due to the nature of our world and our personal lives. Mindfully tune into your check engine lights and adjust accordingly. It's okay to be off balance or unaligned or misaligned, but don't allow yourself to get stuck there, because that's going to lead to disaster. Spend time over the next few weeks to complete 1 or 2 personal values inventories. Spend some time practicing being mindful and pondering your purpose. Lastly, slow down and enjoy the process. To me, life isn't about reaching destinations, it's about the journey and how we get there. And so the next slide, I think, is just a reference page. Is there any comments or questions? I know I went over a little bit, but any chats or questions or comments? And thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
And I want to say thank you to Tavares. As you said, one of the principles of NAMI is start and stop on time. So we will make available any documents that you said that people could benefit from. We're going to make those available on our YouTube page as links to our recording of this presentation. I think it was an excellent presentation. I really appreciate your time, Tavares.
Thank you, Warren. I really appreciate the opportunity again.
All right. And thank you all guests. Again, oh, I see there may be something in the chat. Let's double check. Just a couple of thank yous. So thank you, Tavares, and thank you all. We'll be here again with more of our Leading the Conversation podcasts. Keep your eye on our webpage, www.naminorthernillinois.org. For more information, watch our calendar for upcoming events. Thank you all.